we are about to have a lesson on how to protect yourself in the etheric realms when you are in your own Akashic records, other people's Akashic records, or just their general energy fields, when you are speaking to deities or guides or the aliens or different types of entities or beings that you come across in the cosmos. Sometimes we're a little trepidatious to step into channeling or the totality of our gifts because we grew up in religious households, or we have received societal programming saying that these things are evil and we need to stay away from them, or we've incurred persecution wounds either from this incarnation or different incarnations, or we've had wonky relationships with beings from elsewhere, right? There can be multitudes of layers of things. And so I wanted to share this so that it help you feel more sovereign in self and give you some tools and resources so that you can feel empowered when you are doing this type of work. Now, this is going to be a lesson from my Quantum Evolution Academy. This is a 6-month program where you are able to develop your spiritual gifts, learn how to amplify your channeling abilities, and it goes far beyond that as well. Okay, we're learning how to heal our central nervous system and process our emotions, work on our self-concepts, learn about the chakra system, the 12 transpersonal chakra system, how to heal your inner children, connect into your Akashic records, other people's Akashic records, really how to make your reality a lot more magical around you and step into your soul mission and as a leader in consciousness expansion into the New Earth paradigm. And enrollment opens on May 30th, and I would love to have you in the second round. The first one has been absolutely amazing. Everyone is healing and growing at accelerated rates and adding so many tools and resources and experiencing these amazing quantum shifts. It's so great. It is everything that I hoped it would be, and I know the next round is going to be even more expansive. The sun decided to peek out over here. So if you're interested in learning more about this program, you can check the description box below. And again, it's the Quantum Evolution Academy, and we will go ahead and jump into our lesson on protecting ourselves in the etheric realms. Let's talk about protection while working in the etheric realms. Okay, so a lot of times people are very concerned about what they are going to encounter when they are going into their own Akashic records or into other people's Akashic records. It's like, well, what am I going to do if an entity shows up, or a being, or a ghosty, or just something that you don't necessarily want to have an interaction with? What am I supposed to do then to keep myself safe and shield and guard? First, I want to say that as somebody who has done hundreds and hundreds of Akashic record readings, I have met so many beings in my experiences. I have never had one hurt me. Okay, whether that is physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. It is not the actual being that can do anything to you. It is not the actual hex or the curse or the psychic attacks. It is your own fear paradigms that start running. You start having intrusive thoughts, not because of what this other being or person is doing, okay, or sending your way. It is your own self who is not standing sovereign in your energy field. It's you starting to catastrophize and starting to get anxiety and panic and fight or flight and saying like, oh no, like what's gonna happen? And we all know that what we place energy and intention on is it gets stronger. And so if you are experiencing fear and there's energetic cords that are running with particular things like beings, entities, persons outside of you, kind of like with energy vampires, right? Energy vampires, and we'll talk about that for a second, are persons who do not create a lot of their own energy. These are like actual people, okay? But they don't, manipulators, gaslighters, narcissists, they do not create a lot of their own personal life force energy because they are so negative. And so they tend to gravitate towards empaths because we are so full of love and light and empathy and compassion. And so they will come over to us and kind of dump all of this stuff or make us feel really bad on purpose, or, just trying to drain our energy so that they feel better. But then we walk away not feeling so great, okay? It's not that that person has power over you. It's that you are allowing them to do that. And I know sometimes that can be a difficult pill to swallow, because it's like, why would I want to do that? But again, when we're talking about inner child healing, the reason that you allow that to happen sometimes is because it's a safety trauma response. We're like, okay, well, let me make myself small and just get through this interaction, and so that I can get away from this person, right? So again, not your fault that those things are happening, but we do need to be aware that other people and persons cannot hurt us energetically unless we allow that to happen. Same thing with the hexes and the curses and the psychic attacks and the beings and the entities. And beings and entities are even more removed from harming you than an actual physical person, because they don't have a physical body. They are an energy form. And so there's even less of a chance of that happening. Now we have to get, this might be a little triggering, okay? But I have actually been hurt by a physical person, and I have never been hurt by an energetic being. And have I gone into people's records and I've had encounters with spirit guides or beings, entities that I did not want to speak with, that I did not feel like they had a good vibe or good intentions, or that they were trying to be manipulative, just like a human being can be. Yes. Okay, yes. I'm not going to say that everyone out in the cosmos and the ethers is of love and light, but same thing goes with humanity, with humans as well. That's where your intuition and your discernment come in, and we have to be vibe checking either etheric beings or human beings, right? And the way that we do that is to work through our own trauma and PTSD, so we have very clear lenses of people, and also clear lenses of self, because sometimes we're pulling different experiences and different growth opportunities to show us what needs to be healed within. Like if we are pulling in a lot of people who are very judgmental, that would be a great time to ask self, like, am I being judgmental in different areas of my life? Is this why it's being brought to my attention? And if you have fears of working in the etheric realms and coming in contact with something, it's going to be better for you not to be watching content and movies and TV shows and in books and things of that nature that facilitate that fear. Because when you are having this certain type of paradigm that is surrounding you of like, oh, all of these negative things could happen to me, okay, because I'm sitting here watching alien abduction documentaries, or I'm watching just, you know, all these different things, like persecution of witches, and you know, all of these types of media that are creating this certain type of narrative about how things that are different from us are evil. Okay, that is only going to exacerbate the fear and the anxiety, especially if you have inner children or teenagers within yourself that were able to perceive into different dimensions and different beings around them, whether that's beings of the light or beings of the not so light. When we're children, we don't have as great of communicative skills, and sometimes we don't have people in our life to speak to about those things. Like I didn't. I used to be able to see beings, and I grew up in a very religious household. Persecution, the fear of that was very real, or being told I was evil or going to hell. And so who am I supposed to talk to about this? So I actually just shut down my gifts because of a safety trauma response of, okay, well, if I just don't see anything, then nothing can hurt me or I won't be persecuted, right? And so I had to go through this really long stint when I was trying to open back up my gifts and abilities of not watching things that triggered those fears. Like I was like, okay, we need to be consuming things that make us feel really good about magic, that make us feel really happy. And I'm not saying that now I don't watch those things, okay? Because now I have created a lot of sovereignty within self, and I know for a fact that nothing can touch me, nothing can harm me, okay? I am a very powerful being, and I am able to regulate my own energy field and push out whatever I don't want in it. And I have circled back around and can watch things now that, you know, have more of this heavier side of magic to it, because that's a reality. That is a reality in this incarnation. It's a reality in other incarnations where persons, beings have been persecuted for magic. But when I was trying to work through my own stuff, it wasn't serving me to watch those things until I gained more internal strength. Okay, until I healed a lot of things that were going on with my inner children and my teens from our past. And then I was able to kind of open back up those channels and watch things of that nature, because now it is healing. Because now I can sit here and say, like, this is not representative of our reality. And actually, that is part of our soul core mission, is to help people learn how to be very strong within self. And so if anything like this does come up in their reality, they know how to handle it. And that's what we're doing here in this course as well. But I want to reiterate that if you are watching things that are triggering you in regards to your magic, it is creating that fear paradigm around you, and then you are going to attract things to scare you. Okay, to make you nervous, whether that is actual physical people outside of you, or it is entities or beings or different type of guides, because that's the vibrational resonance that you are pulling in. Okay, it's like, okay, you're watching all these things that are scaring you, then your subconscious is going to say, okay, well, let me give you more things to be scared of. And so if you take almost like a break and you say, I am just going to focus on images and movies and TV shows and all these different things that make me feel really light about magic, that is going to be a lot more optimal for you, and you're going to gain a lot more traction in opening up your channel lines, okay, to be able to receive. So I'm going to meet you in the next video. We're going to continue this conversation. If you have already worked through a lot of fears of persecution and you're of the understanding that hexes and curses and beings can't actually do anything to you, it is actually sometimes really great to watch things that might trigger you, because you can step in as the higher self, as the multidimensional form with your inner children, your teens, and say, what about this was triggering? What about this was scary? What do you think that we are not safe if this were going to happen to us in the etheric realms or the cosmic realms? What do you think that I would do as the higher self and the protector and the guide? How do you think that I would step in? How do you think that we would handle this together, right? Because oftentimes it is great to take things with your inner children and your teens to that worst case scenario, so that you can explain a step-by-step process of what would happen. It's kind of like having a child outside of you that's very nervous about a new experience that they're going to have, or a group of persons that they're going to be around, or just anything that is causing them a little bit of anxiety. It's 11:11 on my phone. Is you coming in and saying, hey, remember, you've got me. I'm going to keep you safe. I am not going to allow anything to harm you. I am going to make sure that we are grounded and sovereign. And if there's anything that comes into our field that we do not prefer, we can simply ask it to leave. I have that within my capabilities. Like that, I have that power within. Okay, because the reason that sometimes we are nervous about going into the etheric realms and coming across things, negative entities and all these things, your inner children are actually blocking some of your gifts to be able to see, because they're quantifying everything as potentially negative. Even unicorns and fairies and dragons and angels, because of programming and media that you have received in this incarnation. Maybe you have had negative experiences with different beings in different incarnations. And I will say that just because something is seen collectively as the light, angels, fairies, unicorns, just like with people, there can be negative versions of them too. Okay, that you do not prefer to work with. And sometimes it's not even a scary situation or them trying to manipulate you into something or deceive you, or all these different things. Sometimes it's simply you don't want to work with them. There have been a lot of beings that have said, hey, Sage, I would love to work with you. And when I do a kind of like a vibe check on them, I say, we don't have the same values. We don't have the same ideals. I don't think that this is going to be a friendship that is going to be in resonance with me. And you're not necessarily offending them, okay? Because higher ethereal beings do not have the same type of thinking that human beings do. Okay, we have a lot of shame and guilt and resentment and all of these like lower, denser vibrational frequencies in this human fields. And they're just more likely to say, okay, and leave. You are under no obligation to work with anybody or anything that you don't want to. And again, this is a representor of sometimes thinking that, well, if I don't say yes, they're going to do something to harm me, or they are going to be offended, or if I say no to them, then other spirit guides are not going to work with me, right? That's coming from an extremely disempowered place. Okay? That when you are looking through those perceptual lenses, that's what you're going to get. All realities are valid and true. Let's talk about hexes and curses like that, okay? So can hexes and curses affect you in a reality where you believe that they can? Absolutely. Okay, because that is your truth. that is what you're going to get examples of. If you live in a reality of your choosing where you say, nothing can harm me, nothing can touch me, I choose what is allowed in my energy fields, and if I don't like something, it has to go. Okay, that is what will happen in your experience. But there's so much inundated in spirituality, and it honestly makes me sick. Okay, and again, this is my opinion, this is what I've seen in my reality, has worked for my reality, but there's so much fear-mongering and saying you need to protect yourself this way and do all of these spells and have all these shields and all these different things. You are your greatest source of power. You get to say what happens in your reality, period. When I first started channeling, these are things that I wish somebody had said to me, because I went through the whole rigmarole too. Okay, of like shielding and guarding and calling on these beings to help me, and all of that was really beneficial. All of it really was. Okay, I'm not saying that stuff doesn't work, but it was because I was of the understanding back then that things could harm me potentially, like psychic attacks, entities, all these different things. That's not true if you don't live in a reality where those things don't happen. I do not deal with any of that ever, period. And I do readings consistently. I am meeting all types of beings in the ethers and the cosmic realms, and 99% of the time they're all great interactions, because that's what I'm looking for. I'm not seeping my mindscape into what could potentially happen that's negative. I am focused on, I want to find what is of the highest light within another person. I want to find what is going to help them, what is going to best serve them, what is going to propel them forward in this incarnation. Now, are there negative things that I see in people's records? Sure, because we all have PTSD and trauma that we're working through. Sometimes they've had incarnations that are really negative, that they're here in this incarnation to help that version of them heal and to release things and to work through stuff. Okay, I'm not saying that it's all rainbows and unicorns and kittens and all these things all the time, but I don't deal with anything that is part of that fear-mongering matrix within spirituality of like, oh, well, the reptilians are going to get you, okay, or you're going to get sucked into a portal in somebody's, records, or, a witch in a different incarnation is going to hex you, and then you're going to come back here and have all these problems. Like, no. Like, we need to have more confidence within self and dictate what we want to happen. Okay, again, you are going to get whatever you are searching for. So we need to make a declaration over self of, I believe in myself, I believe in my magic, I believe in my power, I am searching of things of love and light even if they are shadow aspects of someone, or they're shadow aspects of another being or an entity or a guide, I will know how to handle it when I am there. And I do have available tools and resources that Sage is about to talk about. if you are at the beginning stages of channeling and you want some more parameters, safety nets put around you, there are tools and resources that are really beneficial. That did help me. That helped me feel more grounded within this reality, within myself, with my higher self, and with my inner children and my teens. If you want to utilize those things, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. You're just at the beginning stages, and it's okay. It's like when you have a parent that's raising a child, like they're, I'm not saying you're a child necessarily, but they have somebody who's kind of watching out over them until they're ready to go off on their own, okay? Or you have like a mama bird and a daddy bird, and then they kind of like boot the bird out the nest. Like maybe you're still in the stages of being in the nest, and we want to utilize some of these techniques so that it is kind of like somebody holding our hand as we're moving forward, and that's totally okay too. So we're going to talk about those because I use those myself, but I just want you to fully understand that you will get to a point where you do not need all of those things. You are simply a 100% sovereign being, and reality works the way that you say that it does. Okay, so that's the end goal. That is where we are working towards. Let's talk about protective measures and some ones that I have really enjoyed in my experiences as I'm burning some incense over here. So incense, Palo Santo, sage, and Florida water. Okay, those are all really high vibrational plants, natural resources that can help you clear your energy field of negative vibes. It really just lifts your spirit. It makes you feel really confident. It helps you connect to the etheric realms. Every time that I utilize one of them, it does something for my subconscious of, oh, we're about to do spiritual work. It is a way for me to switch over my brainwave states and kind of let go of what is happening in my 3D reality, and so that I have an easier time channeling and connecting to source or, other people's energy fields, my own energy fields. But it also signifies to you, hey, we are about to do things that are outside of the normal humanscape. And you need to remember that you are a divine, sovereign being, very powerful. Sometimes when you are working with yourself or you're working with other people, PTSD and trauma is very heavy. Okay, working through your subconscious and negative thoughts and programming. Sometimes you are meeting with different facets of persons in their Akashic field, or different incarnations of theirs, or different guides, or past memories, or different entities, all of these different things that you can come across. Sometimes they have really heavy energy fields, okay? Just like human beings. And sage and Palo Santo and Florida water and incense are all really great of helping you clear those things. Okay, it's a great physical tool that you can utilize. Working with shields. Okay, you can envision that there is a bubble around you. It can be different colors depending on maybe what kind of chakra that you want to be working with. Sometimes when I am in public and there's a lot of people, okay, and I'm starting to get anxious because there's just so much energy, I will envision that there is a rainbow aura that is around me, and you can program what you want your shields to do, okay, or these type of like auric fields that can be around you. Remember, setting intentions is everything. with anything and everything, setting intentions will drastically shift that type of experience that you are going to have, or the type of persons that you're going to come across, or the different type of clients that you're going to bring in. or how viral your content is in your business. Intentionalities is how you decide how you want to have reality mirrored back to self. And so when I'm going out in public and I'm putting this rainbow aura around me, I'm saying, I want everything that is of the light to permeate my fields. I want everybody else that is having a heavy, dense, negative aura to bounce off of my fields. I want other people's thoughts that maybe they're having some lower vibrational things going on, fear, anxiety, catastrophizing. I want that to bounce off of my fields, because when you are a very hypersensitive empath, you already have so many channels open. It's so much information flooding you all at one time, not only from the cosmic and the etheric realms, but also from people's mindscapes and their auric fields and their subconscious. Like, it's just all this stuff blasting you constantly. And sometimes it is overwhelming your central nervous system. That's actually, I think we talked about this before, that's actually a lot of the social anxiety that empaths feel. It's not actually social anxiety. It is an overwhelm of information, an overwhelm of a lot of negative information sometimes, because a lot of people are living in negative reality scapes, and it is permeating off of them. And if we're not understanding quite yet how to regulate our chakras and our channels and our own auric fields, it's permeating our own, and then we're interpreting all of their stuff as our own, or even if you know it's not yours. We have to make sure that we are saying over our reality, the only thing that is allowed to enter my field is things that are of positivity and of light and of joy and magic and whimsy and laughter. I want to have positive experiences with people. I want to see the best opportunities. I want to be led in the right directions to my highest alignment. Okay? And what that does is it redirects your attention to find those things. Remember, our subconscious likes to have a job to do. So if we are setting these kind of shields around ourselves and programming them, whether it's in 3D reality with humans, or if it's in the ethers, or in the cosmic realms within people's Akashic records, or working with their inner children, you're going to be much more likely to receive things of that nature, okay? And other things bounce off of your energy field that you do not prefer. There are so many different types of shields that you can work with, and you can do your own research, but there's a violet flame shield. You can work with Joan of Arc and ask to channel some of her energy to create a protective layer over self. You can work with the archangels. It doesn't even have to be necessarily a shield, if you will, like a wall and a barrier and a guard. It can be simply you calling on a type of spirit guide to help create this auric filter, if you will, to make sure that we are reflecting off the things, again, that are non-preferable. But sometimes you don't even have to consciously sit there and do that. You can just say, shields up. You can say, oh, I'm calling on one of my spirit guides right now because I need some extra assistance. It does not have to be this whole ta-da. If you do make it a whole ta-da, because I used to do that, because that made me feel better, it made me feel good, it made me feel protected and grounded and safe. But at the same time, I started to learn, like, oh, I could just say, hey, my shields are up. I don't want to be perceived right now. I want to get into the grocery store and get out without having a whole bunch of conversations. Sometimes we only have so much time and energy, and we just want to get through what we want to get through. Okay? And with beings of the light, we tend to pull in a lot of people that want to have conversations with us, just like random persons, because it feels good to be in our energy field. But then other times we're just like, I just want to go do what I want to do. Now, when you are setting your shields, and whatever that means for you, if you're working with a Merkaba, or you're asking a dragon to encircle you, if you have a dragon guide, what we want to make sure that we're not doing is setting it with fear. and saying like, oh, I want to make sure that I don't have any negative conversations. I want to make sure that, you know, it's just like going down these negative timelines, because then you're setting your field in negativity and fear, and then you're going to pull in more of that. Okay. It's kind of like if you're saying, I don't want to have negative conversations today. That's we're still adding in the negative aspect of that. And that's what your brain and your subconscious are hearing. They're just hearing negative conversations. Don't is also a negative word. What we need to do is flip that and speak over ourselves what we do want to experience in a positive lens. I want to experience great conversations, abundance, prosperity, amazing opportunities, money flowing into my bank account, like all of the positive spins on everything. And so same thing applies to your auric, your energetic field, in the forms of protection. I am feeling sovereign. I am feeling empowered. I am feeling like I speak over what I want in my reality and it happens. I am able to traverse through any experience. I am strong. Like, speak those things into your shields. Okay? And then what will happen is it gets programmed, and then that emanates out of it, and people feel what you do want in your field. And if it is not in resonance, then it is going to create, not like a barrier necessarily, but they're not going to want to interact with you as much, okay, because you are not going to be a vibrational frequency match. Well, let's talk about gatekeepers. Okay, these are so beneficial for me when I first started channeling, because I was scared. Okay, I was very nervous about channeling because of programming. Because before I even knew this, but before in different incarnations, I had negative experiences with beings. I grew up in a religious household, and I was told all these things are evil. I was watching people like talk to aliens about them being abducted and stuff, okay? Or watching propaganda in media that was scaring persons that anything is different than us, you know, is doom and gloom, okay? And it was really scary to go out into the ethers, because one, I was already so afraid of just being in my regular human reality because of the societal and religious programming that I had received, and saying that the world is out to get you 24/7, okay? I was petrified of men, super high social anxiety, just all the things. So I was just in a perpetual fight and flight to begin with, and now you're asking me, well, not you, but source or myself, my higher awareness, asking me to go into these realms where I don't even have a physical body. I can't even utilize necessarily my same physical senses. Like, how am I going to take care of myself in there when I don't even know how to take care of myself here? Okay, so one, we're healing all the human stuff. That's very beneficial, which we've been working on. So you should be at a point now where you feel a lot more safer in your reality. But I said, you know what? I am having a very difficult time. I feel like I'm yelling right now. I'm having a very difficult time hearing my spirit guides. I do not know what their names are. I don't know what they look like. And I'm just nervous about going in there by myself. And so what I did, what I call now, are gatekeepers. And these are specific spirit guides that I asked to be on my team, on my spirit team. I said, if I don't know what my spirit guides' names are, I'm just going to choose a team to come and help me, and I'm going to research about them, learn about them and their stories and the healing and the guidance and the wisdom that they have to offer. I'm going to spend time connecting with them, because just like with any friendship, you gotta invest time and energy okay, into the relationship to help it grow. And so I said, I am going to ask Joan of Arc. You don't have to ask these persons, okay? This is who I asked. You need to find persons that are in resonance with you, and these don't actually have to be humans that lived on this incarnation. It can be a multitude of different beings. But I said I'm going to pick 5 people to help me with different things in my life, not just traversing through the ethers for several different things. But Joan of Arc, Kali, Horus, Archangel Michael, and Lord Ganesh. Okay, so Joan of Arc is great for protective measures. Archangel Michael is as well. He can serve as a bouncer, which is really funny if you want to think of him like that, but he'll vibe check beings or, you know, different people's incarnations if you're working in with their Akashic records, or, you know, just anything that is different than you outside of yourself. He will check them at the door. Kali and Horus, really great protective guides as well. Ganesh, he was helping me with stripping obstacles out of my life, specifically with financial abundance and like kind of things like a lack mentality, and helping me with all of the programming and dismantling that. But Kali, Archangel Michael, Joan of Arc, and Horus, all really great guides. And so when I would go into people's records, I would, when I felt nervous or anxious, or I came across something that didn't quite feel right, or I didn't fully understand what another person's higher self was trying to tell me, or their inner children, they're also really good at helping you decipher messages as well. Because if you have a relationship with an etheric being, they are going to be able to hear other etheric beings a lot more clearly than you may be able to in this incarnation right now, for right now at least, okay? So they can serve as a bridgeway point of like, oh, they're saying this, right? Because some of these beings are very high vibrational, high frequency, and they're so far above languaging that it's more of something that is felt and internally known within your soul. And if you are still learning how to trust yourself, those lines of communication can get a little blurry and the channel line's not super clear. And so if you have kind of this mediator helping you, it can make it a lot easier, and you can say, what did they say? Can you translate that for me? Okay. But when I felt any type of fear and anxiety, I would say, hey, Archangel Michael, can you come in here and help me? Kali, can you come help me? Horus, can you come help me? Joan of Arc, can you come help me? So beneficial, felt so safe. And I kind of weaned myself off of working with them over the years as well. So I would call on them very consistently in a lot of different readings. And when I say that, I wasn't calling on them necessarily because I was experiencing scary things. It's because it was new. It wasn't like all these different things are trying to like attack me or get me or be manipulative or anything like that. It was more so of, hey, I don't exactly know what I'm doing here. Okay? Or I don't know what could come through. There wasn't anything really that ever came through that was like super intense and scary. Like there, and to a certain level and extent, like PTSD and trauma and evil things that have happened in people's history, and not only in their incarnations, but just as history as a whole. Like some of that stuff is really intense to look at, and it is really intense to perceive something really awful happening in somebody's incarnation. Okay, like I'm not saying this stuff is like light, okay, but it's not horrifying. Does that make sense? Like it is not something that is going to just scare the bejeebies out of you. Okay, it's just intense to view. And so I would call on them to help me just feel more relaxed and calm, because I'm in here with my friend. I'm not here by myself. Even when I'm looking at stuff that is super sad, or it is just, you know, heartbreaking to experience in somebody else's field, you know, it might not even be something from a different incarnation. Like sometimes I have talked to people that have been in abusive relationships, or some horrible things have happened to them as a child. Like that stuff's a lot to process, not only for that person, but also for you as the healer and the practitioner. Sometimes it's your own self. Sometimes that stuff is really intense within you that you're trying to work through. And if you have a friend in there that can support you and who understands, because they've had a long history of things like that as well, right? It's just very consoling. Just like it would be if you were having a conversation about something with somebody that was really heavy, and then your friend was here to support you and that other person, right? The more people, the more support, the more perspectives, the more guidance, the more wisdom. These spirit guides have their own interpretations, and they can help talk you through things. They can help you see things in different lenses, and they have different tools and resources that they can offer. So there is an abundance of beautiful things that can come through with you creating this team of gatekeepers. And if you already have gatekeepers, like if you already know who some of your spirit guides are, ask them. Okay, they can help you. They would love to do that. But if you're first getting into this and you don't know their names, create a team. Spirit guides love working with us. Okay, again, you don't have to work with everybody. Some of them are not going to be in vibrational resonance. That's why we need to be doing our research about them and saying, who do I think would be the best match? And then maybe you start working with them and you say, oh, this doesn't seem like we're real copacetic. It's not going to hurt their feelings for you to say, hey, this isn't working for me. Okay, because they've got a million other people they can help. Okay, that they're not going to take offense to it. Your human conceptual mind is creating these narratives of what spirit guides are, and they are your friends. They are here to help and support you. They are here to love you unconditionally. They are here to mentor you. They are not here to do anything negative. They're not looking at you in those type of viewpoints. Okay, so we're going to talk about spirit guides a little bit more in depth here, but I would recommend, if you are newer to getting channeling, or even if you're a little bit more advanced too, like they can still help you. Okay, is creating a team, like picking 1 or 2 people to practice with when you are going in with self, or when you are going in with other persons. That's totally okay. It doesn't mean that you are weak or you can't do it by yourself. No, it just means you have extra support. It means that you have extra guidance and extra wisdom and knowledge, and who doesn't want that? Okay, that's a beautiful thing to have and experience. In the light of talking about protective measures, I want to share something that happened, or not to me, but something that I saw in somebody's Akashic records the other day, because I want you to see the full extent of your own levels of sovereignty that you can reach, and that nothing can touch or harm you. Okay, so before we connected in her session, I channeled from her higher self that she was receiving some blockages in her channeling because of some fears, okay, of connecting with different type of guides. And so we worked through several of those, but after I channeled which ones those were, there was this very negative presence that was in her field. And I said, okay, let me investigate and find out what this is, because it was very heavy. And when I went in, it was a different incarnation of her, which is not reflective of the person that she is here today at all, period. Just because a different incarnation of you has done some evil, nasty things, that doesn't have anything to do with you in this incarnation, okay? Yes, we are all one. With that, we have all participated in negative things, okay, throughout history, throughout the cosmos. And what we are doing now is we are purging all of that and healing our PTSD and our trauma, so that we as a collective are not regurgitating those things, and we're all healing and growing together. So when I talk about this, and if you ever experience this in your own Akashic records, what we don't want to pull away from that is like, oh, well, I'm doing evil things. No, that's a part of your history, just like the history as a whole, okay? And what you're doing in this lifetime of helping them heal and helping them release stuff and helping them figure out their stuff is just like if you would be helping a different person. Yes, we're all one, but at the same time, we're not, okay? Now, when you do experience these things, you can ask within yourself, like, is there an aspect of truth of that incarnation that is also in resonance with me? Like, is that version of me like super judgmental? Then am I being judgmental in this one? Like, sometimes it is a reflection mirror for you to dig a little bit deeper into self, but then sometimes not. Sometimes it's like, no, I've worked through that, and that's why I'm able to help this incarnation. Like, I've already healed those things. Okay, so it takes a little bit of investigative work on self, but what we don't want to do is jump to like, oh my God, I feel so much shame and guilt because this incarnation over here is doing all this stuff. Okay, don't do that. Okay, we're just gonna look at this objectively right now. So when I went in there, this version was doing some really evil things, and I was like, oh, we're not doing that today. Absolutely not. And I said, why are you even here? Why are you trying to contact this person in this incarnation? She's like, oh, well, we have a lot of similar energetics, not with the evil, nasty things, with dark feminine energy. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with dark feminine energy. That's a beautiful thing. Okay, we all have light feminine energy, we all have dark feminine energy. But she was saying, oh, I can teach her, I can mentor, I can guide her, I can do all these things. I was like, absolutely not. No. I said, you need to leave. Okay, because you were doing some nefarious things. Okay, and she was like, no, I'm not going to leave. And she said, it's not your position to tell me to leave either, because it's not your soul contract. It's not your choice. It's not your decision. And I said, I am a representative of this person today. Okay. And I know that if I was having a real-time conversation with them, because keep in mind, this is before me and this person even connected on Zoom. Okay. This is me pre-channeling. I said, if we were having a real-time conversation, they would say, absolutely not, get out of here. Okay, and this other incarnation was like, well, you don't have authority here. And I was like, okay, well, let me show you what we're about to do. Okay. And I started flexing my energy field and showing her how powerful I was. And I was like, I'm not going to allow you to come into her fields. Okay, I'm creating a barrier right now. And I even brought in a phoenix. Okay. And because I was like, well, I'll bring in my spirit team if I need to. Okay. And she was still not wanting to leave. And I said, okay, well, let me show you something else. And about 9 months ago, this is when the other time happened, where I found somebody in another person's energy field who was doing really evil, nasty things. And they were like, well, I'm not going to stop. And I said, okay, this cannot continue. Like, yes, you have free will. Okay. But oversouls, okay, the first being of you that has come into existence, we're going to get into that later in the course, okay? The first being of you that has come into existence, I said they can actually alter your timeline. And when I went into this other person's field 9 months ago, I said, I'm going to call your oversoul, and I'm going to call a team of higher selves from different incarnations, and it's almost like we were holding court for this person. And so they came in and they said, yeah, if we all collectively agree that as a whole entire soul, that doing these type of things, because you have to remember about duality, and what we're perceiving as right and wrong is on a bigger cosmic scale, just experiences. Like, yes, we're all headed towards unity consciousness and compassion and empathy, but we don't have to get into like a huge esoteric conversation about that right now. But sometimes these timelines are in oversoul and different incarnations are seeing things as experiences instead of negative and positive. But those experiences sometimes are so incredibly heavy, and we do not want that anymore. Okay, we have evolved past that. We are ready to level up as a soul. We have learned our lessons about how when we do really negative things, it has very negative effects, not only for us, but for humanity. Okay, there's a point where souls start really evolving and saying, I'm not doing that anymore. That's got to go. Kind of like we're doing in this incarnation right now with our own PTSD and trauma, and saying like, I can no longer have these type of like projections. I can no longer treat people like this. Like, I have to purge this stuff out. So same concept here, but in a different incarnation. Okay, so back to the reading I was doing the other day, I said, well, you see this one that I've already done this. We've already held court, and that person got their timeline very much altered. Okay, and so I showed it to her, and she was like, okay, and what? I said, all right. So we brought in the oversoul and all these different higher souls from different incarnations, because your oversoul is not going to step on your free will. It has to be a collective, decided, unanimous decision between a big group of lots of different incarnations in order to alter timeline. And so they all came in, and I said, if you do not want incredibly drastic alterations to your timeline, like obviously you're gonna have to stop doing that stuff, right? But if you don't want that to karmically vastly change what's happening in your timeline right now, you have to declare that you will never contact my client ever again. You will never speak to her through the ethers. And she said, okay, I will do that. And then I said, great. And so the oversoul and the other incarnations, I was like, okay, well, y'all take care of this. Okay, y'all handle the rest of that. And they were going to like rewrite what she was able and not able to do in that incarnation. So she was not able to do those nefarious things
anymore. Okay, and obviously she's gonna have to karmically, I don't want to say like make up for that, but she's gonna have to absolve those things within her own Akasha fields. But the reason I'm sharing this is because we were talking about protective measures and being sometimes afraid to get into channeling or speaking with different incarnations or entities or beings or guides. I was not afraid at all. In this being whom I was speaking to was a very powerful magical person. And I was like, you can't do anything to me, okay? Like, at no point was I afraid something negative was going to happen to me, because I'm standing very strong in my sovereignty. And I also know that I'm not in there alone either. I can obviously call on their higher self or their oversoul and their higher selves, a whole team, right? Or even if I needed to call on somebody, like I could call on Archangel Michael or Joan of Arc or Kali if I did feel like I needed additional support. But at this stage of my journey, like I'm okay with it just being me. Now, the reason I had to call in the oversoul and the higher selves, and I did call in the Phoenix, though. I was like, oh, watch this, okay? But the reason that I had to call them in is because it's not my soul contract. I cannot rewrite something. I can be a facilitator and I can call on the team, but that's ultimately something that their soul has to do, right? But I wanted to share this so that you can see the extent of like, oh, this is something like really intense that was happening in this person's field. But at the same time, it's not something that you have to necessarily be afraid of.